Hello everybody, welcome back to the Overlap Breakdown channel. I'm joined as always by my co-host Umir, who's a professional football scout and analyst. And today we're here to do our mid-season Premier League awards. Just for FYI, me and Umir haven't talked about who we've picked for each. So whether or not we've got the same one, we have no idea. So we're going to start off with the biggest one, and that is the best player of the mid-season. The best player so far.
On the Wikipedia honours section.
So I've gone with the King, Mohamed Salah.
Yeah.
Have you gone with the same?
Do you know what? Here's the issue with us two, yeah? It's because we're both fairly, I would assume, level-headed, objective kind of thing.
I'm not
there's no hot takes
That's right. That's right.
But yeah, I've got Mo Salah as well. I mean, yeah, to me, I don't think there's another question. I don't know if there's anybody else who you kind of debated between.
No, I was really thinking of Saka.
Yeah.
Saka. I really wanted to think of Palmer, but again, I think it's just disrespectful. I think it's disrespectful for what he's doing. At the time of recording this, we are recording it a week or two before it goes out. But at the time of recording, he's got the joint most goals and the most goals and plus assists with 22.
And the percentage for the amount that he's contributed to Liverpool's goals is
he's the most. And I think obviously you look at Arsenal, you take out Saka, they get a little bit worse. You take out Palmer from Chelsea, they get a little bit worse.
I would put Caicedo actually. I'd mention Caicedo.
He has been
for Chelsea.
And Kulusevski.
Yeah,
there are players who have been good.
Yeah.
But we're talking about an absolute output machine. And I think if you took him out of Liverpool, how far they drop off as a team. Especially when you look at the forwards now.
Yeah,
right now when we're talking, it's who else is scoring? Diaz hasn't scored since September.
Yeah.
Gakpo's nipped him with a few new minutes. He's struggling in front of goal.
When he does come in, he's decent.
And it's just I just don't know. I've got a stat here. Mohamed Salah has now provided 100 assists for Liverpool in all competitions, with 13 of them coming this season. That's the most of any Premier League player in 24-25. And since his debut for the club in August 2017, only 3 players have made more assists in Europe's top 5 leagues, and that is Kevin De Bruyne, Lionel Messi and Thomas Muller. Yeah. Obviously Thomas Muller, underrated, but he's up there with De Bruyne and Messi for creative numbers.
And he's a player who focuses on goal scoring,
And I said this the other day on Twitter, but it's his playmaking is so underrated.
Yeah. I try and make a point to mention it all the time, but for a goal-first player, if that's how you want to see him, his creativity is, Trent aside, stands out in that team amongst midfielders.
I think under Slot as well, he's been asked to do a lot more creating. Yeah. And it's I don't know how he stepped up to be so good at creating. Yeah. He always was. But it's all right, can you score the most goals in the league, but then can you also assist the most goals in the league? Just do that. And he's gone, sound. So, no.
Massively deserved, I'd say.
Also, as well, this season he's won his 6th Premier League Player of the Month award, which is the joint most of any Premier League player who played for Liverpool, joint with Steven Gerrard. And the only players who have got more than him is Aguero and Kane.
Yeah.
So that's the level. That's where he's sniffing around. Well, you can argue he's
all-time.
Yeah, you can argue he's all-time level now. And we spoke about his all-time ranking in the Prem, and it's he's not just he might get in the 11. It's no, he's in the 11. Especially if they go on to win the league.
Yeah, for sure.
Moving on to the most improved. I feel like we've got the same for this.
I know.
I feel I've got Ryan Gravenberch. Have you got the same? It's like a Liverpool fan page.
It's like we got one high.
Welcome to Redmond TV. No, but it's straightforward.
Yeah. I think I don't think he's made a jump up in his actual quality. Yeah. I think he's been platformed appropriately.
Yeah.
And his quality is shown to have improved from the back of that, basically.
I had 2 more for this. I had Fulham. I had Fulham and Chris Wood. And the only reason why I haven't put them both is I think Chris Wood I think he's always been decent.
I think he's I
think he's always it's surprising that he's gone, scoring this much.
But last season, he played fewer minutes, but the amount of goals that he scored per minute is ridiculous.
And that's what I mean, and I feel like
he's outscoring Tony,
he has improved.
Tony had that kind of reputation around him that people thought he could play for a top 4 club kind of thing. Yeah. But Chris Wood's always been there, and especially last season.
We said on the pod the other week, he's the top scorer in the Prem for 2 different clubs now. So it's not like he's underrated, he's just really good.
Yeah.
So he has improved, but he's not improved incredibly.
Yeah.
He's just a bagsman. Just such a Ryan Gravenberch, because I think for me it's just the reason why I put him most improved is because he's playing a position that like I just never thought
Yeah.
he'd play. Like I think there was a couple question marks. He was like, oh, he's got really long legs, silky on the ball, but translating that to a single pivot midfielder is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I think the intelligence that it requires in terms of like the tempo of the game is what I've been most impressed by. One, he can bring players on him, but then he can spin, he can burst past them. On top of that, he's good defensively out of possession. He's good at knitting things, whether they build up in wide areas.
He's available all the time.
Yeah, he's played so consistently at such a
feels like
physical
they don't
level.
rotate.
Yeah, exactly. So like his performances deserve the sort of respect that they're getting.
Yeah.
And he's been one of the best midfielders in the league. Not only people talk about most improved from sort of unknown to a decent level, but he's gone from sort of decent to one of the best in the league.
I think as well as like McAllister had a really good season last season.
Yeah.
Szoboszlai was new signing, could have come in this year. Curtis Jones was there.
But everyone said, look, they needed a six.
Endo played. It's like Zubimendi saga. And that's why I just look at him and I just go, that is the most improved performance-wise like player. Third is the biggest surprise of the season so far. And I'm going to let Umir take the first pick on this one.
City fan. I'll go Manchester City. You can pick your manager, you can pick your player, you can play your club.
So it's not my first one, but I've got / City in brackets bad.
Everything, yeah. I mean, if we're going players, I think Guardiola, he's been all right, but compared to the heights that he hit last season, particularly out of possession, there's some question marks there. I still think he's a good player, good defender, but I've been a bit surprised there. Phil Foden, obviously he's had his own sort of injury concerns. He's been unwell. He had bronchitis for a little while, but from player of the season last season to his form now.
That's a surprise. Yeah. That could be a surprise in itself.
Yeah, exactly. I've put that there. And the Manchester City in general, Guardiola.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit harsh to put Guardiola in there because it's an injury crisis.
Yeah.
But you never expect Guardiola, a manager who's not lost.
I think the top four.
I think he's not lost. 4 games in a row prior, and I was lost 8 or 9 in 10.
Yeah, it's mental.
So certainly a surprise. I think positives, I would mention Nuno. I'd mention Forest. They're certainly high up the table. Yeah. I think they've been really impressive. Fulham as well. Some people had concerns about them prior to the season with some of the outgoings, Paulinho, for example, but they've been really impressive and surprising, I think, to the general public, but I'm always a fan of Marco Silva, and I think it's less surprising to me that he's been able to do that, but all the same, quite surprising.
Yeah. For my surprise, I've got Enzo Maresca. Not Chelsea, but just Maresca. We've spoke about him a lot on the channel, but I just think, like, he's been so different to what I thought he was going to be like. Yeah. I thought he was, especially when he come into the season and he was really hard and really tough on his players. I thought, oh, Christ, how are they going to take to that?
Young players, big
young
squad.
Players, big squad. There's already handbags with the ownership. Yeah. And he's just gone, no, I'm going to play football. This is my squad. You can deal with the rest. And I think he surprised me, not just in terms of how much he's adapted to Chelsea in terms of the squad profile, but also how he's adapted on pitch with the players.
I also think his press conferences, he's got this kind of like muted charisma. It's quite nice, and when you get the media on your side a little bit, you get the fans on your side, it makes the rest of the job quite easy. Yeah.
I just love what he's done with the B team and the A team. He's both got him a week, but it was like he's got 2 teams
and it works,
and it's working for him. And it's like perform well in the B, come into the A, and it's just working. And I think the way he's handled situations like Jadon Sancho, massive like downer in terms of the past few years. He's coming to Chelsea, puts him on the touchline, gets him separation as we mentioned, and lets him play a bit more freely. Enzo Fernandez under scrutiny. He's now got a ridiculous amount of output in so and so many games. Cucurella has took a leap. Nicholas Jackson firing. Pedro Neto fit. That in itself is like an accomplishment.
So the next one we've got is best manager of the league so far. You've just mentioned Maresca. I think it's sensible to give him a shout out. I've still not gone for him, but he's on my list. I've gone Nuno Espirito Santo. Yeah. I mean, look, I think tactically, if we talk about Forest, I think they've had really brilliant investment in terms of the players, their profile. Yes. But on top of that, we're noticing a trend tactically where teams are finding it difficult to build up through the middle. We spoke about that in the Derby tactical piece, but in doing so, either they're trying to build down the flanks or they're trying to go long. And what we've noticed with Forest is a really good proficiency in going long and then building off of the back of that. They've got good wingers in terms of their play. You know, Elanga, who's been really impressive, Hudson-Odoi, for example, and in, you know, playing through the wide areas or going long to Chris Wood, they've been able to establish a lot of touches in this third. Not many in here, and then obviously quite a decent amount in their own third as well. But if you just look at their league position, I think it's hard to go off that, and it doesn't look like it's
got to dry up.
Lucky.
It's funny you say that because when they started, I think 10 games in, I looked at some of the data behind it, and usually you can tell when the keeper's having a worldie or. But they had next to no possession, but the opposition weren't shooting, weren't anywhere near to goal. The XG against was down. And I was thinking, what's happening in these games? And I went to watch them. And I was like, you look at them and you just can't get past them. I reckon their in-play ball time is like the lowest in the league because they play like a typical side that just defends low and wants to edge out the game. Obviously, they beat my club. And do you know what I think?
It's a bit Leicester-y.
I think people owe Forest an apology because you remember when people were looking at the transfers, what they were doing? And it was like, I think obviously it was ludicrous to do what they were doing with the amount of players. But their hit rate on transfers now is incredible. Like Elanga, Hudson-Odoi, Chris Wood, Gibbs White, Elliot Anderson, Murillo, Milenkovic, Ola Aina.
Top.
They're all really good players. And it's like, for a team who was scrutinised, and they've still got so much on the bench as well. Like they're bringing Elanga off the bench, Jota Silva off the bench, and it's like... Nicolas Dominguez, like he's a quality player off the bench, and I'm just looking at him and I'm like, no one's. I think people are going like, oh, Nuno's done a great job, but if you look at the squad they've built,
the quality, the player
they've built
is top.
Brilliant team.
I think they've been
playing
platformed nicely, exactly for playing that way. The only question marks that do pop up into my mind are, after a successful season playing sort of low, playing in this direct fashion.
What's the next?
It's similar to what we saw with Newcastle, or what we're seeing with Newcastle happening now. When they're given more onus on the ball, how do they perform? But they're in this kind of period where they're able to play in a style that they're dictating, and it's been really impressive. And it's a hallmark of sort of Nuno Espirito Santo's best work, whether that be at Wolves and now at Nottingham Forest.
Right, moving on to the next segment, we have Unsung Hero.
I mean, we've been talking about Forest. I'm going to segue into giving a bit more prop to my boy Murillo and Milenkovic. I think the centre-backs have been really impressive. Murillo, for me, looks like
a pairing.
In general. But I think Murillo, in particular, looks like a player who can definitely make the step up into European quality. By the way, it might be Forest next season.
It might be for Forest.
They might be European.
People say that about Villa, weren't they? It's like Watkins could go to Champions.
He's there. Just wait a season. Murillo really stands out to me as somebody who, look, as much as he is sort of this robust, really astute defender, he's also brilliant at bringing the ball out, and the ability to play these passes is quite technical. And to play these direct passes to facilitate Forest's style. I think he's really stood out to me as somebody who has been massively impressive. Baleba, Brighton, I think unsung, but he's getting his praise now. But he seems to be the next in that pipeline for, sort of relatively unknown to Brighton to a Chelsea or an Arsenal kind of thing.
For sure.
But they're sort of the 2 or 3 players that really stood out to me. And
I know you'll like this one, but I've got Marco Silva.
Marco Silva, manager.
I just think,
brilliant.
Do you know what I think? Like Thomas Frank gets the praise because he's this really good. He has this really good pragmatism about him.
And he's great at speaking.
He's a great character. Adoni Iriola has the same sort of thing. He's like an out of possession genius. He's like, wow, so good. And then you've got other teams like Forest. They've got really interesting squad, and they're in 4th at the time of recording. And I feel like Marco Silva, it's like he doesn't have PR.
He kind of
he's just there.
Very, very balanced squad. He platforms his players properly.
And I think last season we've often spoke about this, about Fulham with a team that were really bad on all the underlying metrics, like all of them, and it looked like there was a constant overperformance season on season after they come into the Prem, and I felt like he'd come off the back of a job that was tough at Everton, did a great job at Hull, and I remember Hull coming to Old Trafford when Maguire was still there, and they were really, really good against us, and I was like, who's this manager? I think he come from Olympiacos, and I think the way he's gone to Fulham after a hard stint and has just like that trajectory-wise has just kept going up. I
mean, you look at some of the players, you think they're players surely, like you can't get a tune out of them to the level that you're getting. And Raul Jimenez is looking brilliant again, and obviously he had Adama, suiting Adama's style of play to his own system. You're seeing the likes of the midfield.
Iwobi.
Yeah, Iwobi, a brilliant player. Paulinho obviously leaving, but them finding that balance in that midfield with Sander Berger, I think, in there. So
I think he's very simplistic, but that's like his thing.
Well, if you're balanced,
he's just a balanced team, balanced players.
A really good mid block, by the way. I think it's hard. If you're looking at Manchester City, you see how hard it is to coach a mid block.
Yeah,
and Fulham do a mid block better than Manchester City do a mid block.
Right, so moving on from the biggest unsung hero to the funniest moment of the season. Now, I know this is subjective because I'll find stuff funny that you won't.
Yeah, probably my entire team, you know.
So I'll lead on this one, but I've got two.
All right, go on.
So I think funniest moment either goes to Jamie Vardy pointing at the Premier League badge against Spurs when he scored against him. Started going like that, which was hilarious. And then the other one was just Pep at Anfield.
I got Pep at Anfield.
Oh my God. Honestly, I thought he'd lost the plot.
Yeah. I think that was I really liked it.
It was just like you've never seen Pep like out of character like that. But he doing the 4 times to the Liverpool fans, but then going over to the City fans and doing it again. And it was just like...
I think to the City fans is almost there's kind of like... look, appreciate what we've done and we've built so much kind of thing. And I think the fans, like, as a City fan myself, I think we were quite receptive to it. It was quite cool. It was quite like, it's almost developing the siege mentality kind of thing. And obviously, we're not seeing the benefits of that pay off yet. But like to the City fans, I don't mind it. But to the Liverpool fans, I thought it was.
It's just so.
It's good. Like,
it's just so
kind of
funny.
Barclays Premier League, like
he said in the press conference after, he's like, I thought us and Liverpool had a good relationship. It's like he's just taking the mick in it. He's like, you've been going head to head for about 10 years. Like, don't think it's a good relationship.
Yeah, I thought it was playful all around kind of thing. No. Like, I think it's nice when the Liverpool fans do get involved in that way. I think it's nice when Pep gets involved in that way. And
no, it's funny and. In terms of funny moments, like it was City versus Liverpool at Anfield. It's like the least thing you'd expect to do is Pep to have like a meltdown.
It's in the middle of the game.
I know, it was just like mid-game, just turning around. And I just thought like it was in and around like him scratching his head and stuff. I was just like, this is brilliant.
Yeah.
Obviously as an onlooker and just the press conference after, everything leading up to it, I just thought, brilliant.
Shout out Pep, man, I love that guy.
We're going to move on now into goal of the season so far.
Yep.
You can lead off on this one.
We go back to Fulham. I love Fulham, but we've got Wilson. Wilson versus Brentford. Sort of a backheel volley almost kind of thing.
Crazy.
Lobbed the keeper kind of thing.
Crazy
like, it was ridiculous. I don't know how someone kind of has the audacity to decide to do that.
to try and do it.
And then the fact that he pulled it off, like, ridiculous.
I think the audacity thing is what I've gone for in mine. I've gone Duran against Everton.
Brilliant.
Right, I watched this in the pub, right? Honestly, I couldn't see the screen. So it's like a wide screen, but I was sat like on there.
Yeah.
So it looked like the screen was stretched. And I swear to God, when I watched it, he scored from the halfway line. And I was looking at it and I was like, he has shot from so far. So I stood up, went over to the thing and I was like, and the audacity to even think to shoot from there was just like...
Duran plays like someone explained the rules of football to him about 2 minutes before.
He plays like it's like FIFA or something.
Yeah, or just literally like... If you're about 6 years old, someone say, look, this is football, you get the ball, you have to kick in the net. And that's all he tries to do. But and it works.
Oh, it's just good. And honestly, absolute wand of a left foot. Well,
not one, it's like a hammer. To that goal.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that goal. Like, it doesn't feel real. And I think they're the type of goal, like the Ronaldo against Porto.
Yeah.
The goals that just should never happen. Like, should never
like, why
go in.
Why are you taking that shot? It's gone in. Company versus
it's stuff like that. It's like... Yeah, I just think the audacity angle from players taking long shots and stuff is the best thing, because you always get a fan who's like, why are you shooting from there? And then it's it's a goal. Segueing on nicely, we have assist of the season so far. What have you gone with here?
I feel like it sounds like I'm a Fulham fan because I've got Jimenez against City.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? The back heel.
Mine's
back heels.
Yeah, so I've got that.
Yeah.
But then I've also got / something else.
Okay.
I've got Eze against Spurs.
I don't know if I'm...
He's like... he does like the rat. I'm not going to try to do it on camera. But it's like he does the flick that like Harry Wilson does for the goal, but he assists Mateta for it, and it was 1-0 against... But I just remember watching it.
Yeah.
I just remember watching it, and he's like, the gap he gets it through, it's not even there. It doesn't feel like it's there. And the other one I had I'm not even sure if I can have this down for assist of the season because he doesn't touch the ball.
Yeah.
But do you know the Mateus Cunha dummy in the box?
Oh, yeah.
Where it goes through his legs and it rolls across, and it was a counter-attack from Villa, and it was so satisfying. But I'd like give it like goal rather than the assist because he doesn't touch the ball, but it makes the goal.
In a similar way, the Palmer, it's a pre-assist. But like I kind of wanted to mention that.
Yeah.
Almost for goal probably, but like in my head that feels like that's more of an assist than the
Jimenez. I remember like I watched it on Match of the Day, and I was like, I had to slow it down, like pause it. I was like, what has he just done?
I think was that. I thought it was in the ground. I was in the ground.
Yeah, I thought it was a fluke, and it just wasn't.
When I saw it, I was like, how's that happening? And you look at the big screen, they're playing in slow motion. I'm like, right, okay. I'm glad I was about other side.
Yeah. Honestly, that Jimenez, man, against you all the time, isn't it? Like, this is like a full
a Maverick football club.
Just brilliant. And then we've got 2 more left, so we're gonna move on into signing of the season.
Yeah.
Who have you gone with? I've got 3. I'm gonna have to pick one.
Good that you've got 3 because I kind of struggle with this. So
did you?
I think I've got probably one of.
There's not been when I was researching last night.
Yeah.
There's not been that many signings, and if there has been a signing,
especially
it's been
top level kind of thing.
No, and it's been like a really shrewd, like pick up, and he's overperformed for the value they paid for him. So, who have you gone with?
I've gone Mazraoui.
Yeah, I've got Mazraoui as one. Yeah,
right wing back, right centre back, left back. 4 at the back, 5 at the back. Like he's done it all.
10.
Played
10 in the Europa League.
And brilliant technical quality, reliable availability wise, great engine on him. Seems like a quite,
just seems like a
sensible on-field presence.
Just seems like everything United lack.
Yeah.
Squad, like mentally, physically, technically.
It's just like
all the boxes. There was all them tweets going around when it was like, give us 10 more Mazraouis.
Yeah.
That's how it feels though. For the other 2 that I've got, I'm going to pick the second one. What second one I'm going to say here?
Yeah.
Milenkovic.
Top.
Yeah, as we've spoken about, but I'm going to go Liam Delap.
Liam Delap, fair play. I think, we spoke about him when he first joined, but he's someone who's come through the City Academy, or played for the City Academy rather. And when he was made, I think it was a £20 million signing, and a lot of people had question marks over that. But his profile suits the Premier League massively, and he's somebody who, like I was always very high on him having a good career in the Premier League. But the way he scored off of difficult chances, he can manufacture goals and chances for himself, which is the biggest quality, I think.
Yeah, the reason why I give it him is just the overall play. Like, he does everything well.
Yeah.
And it's like, we spoke about Chris Wood before, and he's like a backboard, a runner, a scorer, a creator, a good passer.
Pressed as well.
And I think the game he played against us, he didn't score, but he just affected the game overall, and I was like,
I think he gave Diaz a really difficult time.
He's just so physical.
Even though he didn't sort of, make his mark on the game in terms of output and everything.
Yeah.
His duelling with Diaz posed a big question mark for Manchester City in our game against Ipswich as also.
No, I just look at Liam Delap and I'm like, if you take his goals out of Ipswich, they'd probably be in a much worse position.
Yeah.
I've watched him at least 4 or 5 times and come away, even if he's not scored and gone, bloody hell.
Yeah.
It's a cracking player. And then the fee they've paid for him, which obviously from a promoted side is a bit thingy, but the profit they're going to make on that signing
also,
if he leaves.
all things considered, 20 million for a Premier League quality
for a Premier
striker.
League, who's scoring goals as well. And I think when you look at Leicester and you look at Southampton now, and even Palace down there, I know they've got Mateta, but all of them are struggling for goals. And I think Ipswich can almost say they've got a guy who they give chances to. He's going to score alongside like Sammy Smodics.
Or even if you don't even give chances to him, he's going to
make something. And I think it was the Spurs away game and the United at home game against 2 Big Six where I was like, Jesus Christ, like just really good. And I think he's for signing the season. We're looking for like shrewd deals because the big ones.
Yeah.
One player that does deserve a shout out, but obviously we've already waxed lyrical about Forest, is Elliot Anderson.
Yeah.
The only reason why I've not put him is because he was 40 million.
Yeah.
And it's a massive gamble because to get back the quality for the value you paid, it's going to take a lot more than just half a season worth of performances.
100%.
But as we mentioned before, Forest are doing really good in the market, and he looks to have been a really good out-of-the-block signing. And then, Milenkovic was my third one, who, for 12 million from Fiorentina, I thought someone was going to pick him up a few years ago. I thought Conte might have got him at Spurs, or when Spurs were a bit more of a mid-block team, stick him in a back 3. Yeah. But just like meat and potatoes defender, just win the ball, and he just wins everything. And you were
very complimentary in there.
Yeah, you speak about technical, and then he's just like Wins everything.
And
in
by
the
the way,
box.
there's some technique to actually being.
Oh
a
yeah,
great
he's,
tool and
yeah, he's
defender
not like big hard man. Like he's very good what he's doing, and like
but
he's
you
one of
need
the
that.
most
It's
valuable
almost,
players.
Yeah, it feels like that quality's almost died out in the
Yeah.
modern game a little bit. But to see more traditional player in that mold, like, is really good. I had Unsung Hero, so
Yeah, no, for
Pretty
sure.
sure
Yeah,
I'm
you
not
had him on
doing
his own, yeah, don't need to justify yourself. Finally, to wrap up, the last segment is a one to watch for 2025.
Yep.
This can be player, manager, club, as we've mentioned. I'm going to throw this over to you. Who have you gone with?
bit biased. I've got to give Manchester City something in here, and I've gone Oscar Bob.
Oh, yeah.
If I think in 2025, I
Yeah.
think his recovery is estimated to be January, sometime late January.
Yeah.
So, I mean, prior to this season, Oscar Bob's a player who,
good.
I mean, I've been a massive fan of
So
Oscar Bob for
good,
years.
yeah.
To the extent where, look, player of the season for the EDS, I think players player of the season for the EDS twice. I wanted him promoted into the main setup earlier than he was, but the fact that he is in the main setup and he's established in there, I thought, and going off of Guardiola's quotes, he was going to have a really big part to play. Manchester City lacked goals and assists from the wide areas. When he did play in those sort of pre-season games, even in some of the games, that winner against Newcastle, for example, the quality that he has, I think, from our academy, is probably the best since Foden. I think him, Palmer, and Foden are like Manchester City's best 3 academy graduates, and we've not seen that quality on a consistent enough level at the senior sort of domestic leagues.
Did you think he was going to have a bigger say this season? What maybe people thought?
I thought
he played the Community Shield.
I would have had him as starting right
Yeah,
winger. As good as Savinho is, we're seeing Bernardo play that role now, and you've got injuries as well. It's such a packed fixture list. But I think with Oscar Bob, he could have played that right wing position. Pep's mentioned we didn't sign a replacement for Alvarez because Foden or Bob can play in the middle, false line kind of thing. He could play off the left. He could play everywhere, basically. He played left back. There was one game in the EDS where we had sort of all our attackers on, and Bob actually moved into left back for the last 10, 15 of the game. So for me, a brilliant player. He's a really nice guy as well, by the way, a really humble guy. And
that's the best thing.
Oh yeah, no. To be fair, as in football, to get really good
nice
guys,
person.
So I personally, I have a lot of sort of support for him as an individual, but quality-wise, I think he has first team Manchester City quality, and he could have been a big difference for us.
Did you think Savio was supposed to play as many minutes as he maybe has because they were banking that Oscar Bob would rotate so much with him?
I think they're probably 50-50, and then whoever gets sort of the rhythm plays. With any signing for Manchester City, you kind of have that first season to get
That's
into
what
it.
I was thinking of.
Yeah.
You have the first season where you can give it a few goals, but then the second season, then you step up and do.
And there would have been less pressure on him to score and assist, because now I don't know whether or not he gets in his head a little bit. Or, I mean, I think they could have played together anyway. But Oscar Bob playing as that right central midfielder. Given that City lacks some physicality in there, he would have been able to do a job in there as well. So hopefully when he comes back, we'll see more minutes, especially if the season's a bit more written off than it is now. Kind of just, it'll be good for his development because he's a brilliant player. And the same way that Palmer is seen now at Chelsea, Palmer wasn't given that much license at Manchester City, and look how good he is. So I think Bob is in that same kind of realm of discussion, basically.
I've also gone with a winger.
Yep.
Mikey Moore.
Good shout.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mikey Moore is the youngest player to start a Premier League match for Tottenham since Stephen Carr against Ipswich in 1993.
Wow.
So, you can tell how highly he's rated in terms of the Spurs camp. I obviously played in Europe for him, and I just think he's absolutely incredible. Do you know what? I look at Spurs and we spoke about this a lot. They don't have 1v1 quality out wide since they've moved Kulusevski infield, and they're struggling a bit to. Obviously, they've got Brennan Johnson scoring goals, Son who's playing a mixed role, but Mikey Moore in a Postecoglou team, if they can keep hold of him, is just a dream in my opinion.
Yeah.
I just think he's carrying ability. He can come inside. He could probably play as an 8 if he wanted to. Just his decision making on the turn, on the spin, in behind. He's a good creator, good small space player. He's only 17. And I remember I watched him in the under-18s Euros, and I just thought he's like a cut above everyone else whenever he played.
Yeah.
John, there's like an anticipation for a young player to come through and start well.
Yeah.
Do you know what? As soon as they hit the ground running, you know, like
with
Palmer was scoring for City right out the gate.
Yeah.
So was Foden.
Yeah.
So was Oscar Bob.
Yeah.
You just take little chances, little glimmers, and if they take it and they assist, they score, they play well.
If they look
straight
better
away,
with better quality players,
you just know it's like, this is a serious player now. And I think there's some players who maybe come into the lineup who play all right, but statement players who come in and they're like, right, here's a goal, here's an assist, here's a game winner. They're the players that I look at and I'm like, right, mentally, they're built for this level.
Yeah.
And I think technically he's got everything to work with. And no, I think he's incredible. And I think in an Ange team, for seeing what could happen with the projects, with the players like Bergvall, Gray coming through, a bit younger, a bit more ideal, modernised footballers. I look at Mikey Moore in the next coming years and I just think he's going to be an incredible player. And yeah, massive fan. But great shot, Oscar Bob. Yeah. When you said City, I was like,
I thought what's he going to say? Nowhere I can put Manchester City in there.
I was like, what's he going to say about City? Bob, man.
We're waiting on the return.
I was going to say like Haaland or something.
One to watch, yeah. Just watch if he scores, you know.
Right, thank you very much for watching this episode of The Breakdown. If you did enjoy, please like and comment and share it all around. And we'll be back next week for more Premier League action. Thank you.